Hi, I'm Paul Kyogan from GK Tuition, and in this video I want to talk to you about coordinate geometry of the line and the circle. Now the question I've chosen to go through here is 2016 Paper 2 Question 2. In the first part of this question we're told that the coordinate x is minus 1/6 and that the slope of the line xc is 1/7, and then we're asked to find the equation of that line. So they've given me the coordinate, they've given me the slope, so it's very straightforward. I can sub straight into my formula. In order to sub into this formula, I need to know one point and I need to know the slope. Now clearly that's exactly the information I've been given. So in this case, if we sub in, we get y minus 6 equals 1/7 times x minus 1. So in order to get rid of my fraction here, the easiest thing to do is to multiply both sides by 7, which means I get 7 times y minus 6 is equal to x plus 1. Minus by minus gives me a plus. Now the question asked me to leave the equation of my line in the form ax plus by plus c equals 0. Or in other words, just have everything on one side. So what I've done is I've brought everything to the left hand side. I got minus x plus 7y equals minus 43. Now if you had brought everything to the other side, you'd have x minus 7y plus 43 equals 0. So if all your signs are different, then that's fine. So you can either have everything on this side or everything on the other side. It doesn't actually matter which is which. So there's two answers here. You could have all your signs could be different to mine, or obviously all your signs are the same as mine. So let's move on now and talk about part B, which was a little bit trickier. Okay, so for part B of this question, we're now given a scenario that looks like this. We're told the equation of a tangent to the circle S is 3x plus 4y minus 21 equals 0. Now remember, whenever they mention tangent, you should always realize that a tangent is perpendicular to the radius. At the point of contact, a tangent is always perpendicular to the radius. I'm told the radius of my circle is 5, and I'm asked to find the equation of my circle. Now you should recognize that to find the equation of a circle, I need to know the center and I need to know the radius. Now they've already given me the radius, so actually all I need to do in this question is find the center. So I need to find minus g and minus f. So essentially in this question I've got two unknowns. If I have two unknowns, you should recognize that in order to solve a question with two unknowns, more than likely this is going to be a simultaneous equation. More than likely I'm going to need to come up with two different equations with minus g and minus f in them. If I have two equations and two unknowns, I'll be able to find my g, find my f, then I'll know the center, I'll know the radius, and I'll be able to get the equation of the circle. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We've enough information in our diagram and from part A to work out two different equations with minus g and minus f in them. The first one is if we use our perpendicular distance formula. I know that the perpendicular distance from the coordinate minus g minus 5 to the line 3x plus 4y minus 21 equals 0 is 5. So I know the perpendicular distance from this line to this coordinate is 5. So you'll notice here that I've written out my formula for the perpendicular distance. The perpendicular distance between a point and a line is ax1 plus by1 plus c over the square root of a squared plus b squared. And I know that my perpendicular distance in this case is 5. So in this context, a is the coefficient of x in my line. The coefficient of x in my line is 3. B is the coefficient of y, which is 4. And c is the constant at the end, which is minus 21. x1, y1 is the coordinate itself, so my x1 is minus g and my y1 is minus f. Now I find in these kinds of questions, think about it yourself. If you were in your Leaving Cert, you're just, in part A, you worked out the equation of this line, which is minus x plus 7y minus 43 equals 0. So I think your first instinct when you're subbing into this formula may have been to sub in these as your A, B, and C. So just always just look at your diagram. I'm getting the perpendicular distance from this line to this point, which means that I'm getting A, B, and C from this line and my x1, y1 from this point. So just be very careful with that one. So let's just sub in our values now. Instead of A, I can put in 3 times minus g plus 4 times minus f minus 21, and I've got absolute value signs over that. And that's over the square root of 3 squared plus 4 squared. And I know that that is equal to 5. Okay? So in this case, let's just simplify down. Our top line is minus 3g, minus 4f, minus 21. And I have to put absolute value signs around that. 3 squared is 9 and 4 squared is 16. 9 and 16 is 25. So the square root of 25 is just 5, and that's equal to 5. So probably the easiest way to leave this one for the moment, let's just get rid of our fraction. So I want to multiply both sides by 5, and if I do that, I can leave this one as minus 3g minus 4f minus 21 is equal to 5 multiplied by 5 gives me 25. So for the moment, let's just leave that one there. So all I've done there is I now have an equation with minus g and minus f as my unknowns. So in this case, if I can come up with one more equation with a g and an f in it, I'll be able to use a simultaneous equation to find the center of my circle. Now the other equation that we can use is actually probably more, it's a lot more straightforward than that, but it's easier, it's harder to recognize. In part A of the question, I worked out the equation of the line xc. And I know that the center of this circle, minus g minus f, is on this line. If this point is on this line, then that means I can just sub it in as my x and my y. So the equation of the line xc is minus x plus 7y minus 43 equals 0. And I know that the coordinate minus g minus f is on this line. So now I can just sub in. So instead of minus x, it will become minus g. Instead of 7y, it's 7 times minus f, and then minus 43. Which means my second equation in this case, minus by minus is plus g minus 7f minus 43 equals 0. So now the rest of the question is very straightforward. I have two equations, two unknowns, and I can just do a simultaneous equation. But I think a lot of people struggle that year because it's hard, because there seemed to be a lot going on in the question. I want you to recognize they asked you to find the equation of a circle. So you should think, right, I just need the radius and I need the center. I've been given the radius, which means all I need in this question is to find the center. So I have two unknowns. If you have two unknowns, the first thing that should jump into your head, now it's not always going to be true, but usually if you have two unknowns, a simultaneous equation is the way you're going to solve the question. So if you want to freeze frame this one, I'm going to start again from the top and talk to you what we're going to do with our modulus here. Notice that the last part of this question, it says find the equation of one such circle S. Because there's two possible scenarios here. Because I have modulus signs around this equation, in order to get rid of them, I can rewrite it, except take the right hand side as plus or minus. So to get rid of my modulus signs, I can introduce a plus or minus here. Which means that there's two different answers that I could get. If I take this as a plus, I'm going to get a certain value for g and f. If I take it as a minus, I'm going to get a different value. So in this video, I'm going to do both different methods, both equally as accurate. Because they only asked me for one, it doesn't matter which you did. So the one I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this as a plus. So let's say I took the right hand side as plus 25. That means the equation of one of my equations is minus 3g minus 4f is equal to 25 plus 21. Which means that minus 3g minus 4f is equal to 46. So now I've simplified down my equation from the perpendicular distance. And I also, when I subbed in minus g minus f into the line xc, I found that the equation of that line was g minus 7f is equal to 43. So now it's a very straightforward simultaneous equation. So let's just work our way through this. In this case, the easiest thing to do is to get rid of the g's. If I have a minus 3g on the top, I want to have a plus 3g on the bottom, so I'm going to multiply the bottom line by 3. So in this case, my top line stays the exact same, minus 3g minus 4f is equal to 46, and my bottom line I'm going to multiply by 3. 3 by g is plus 3g, 3 by minus 7f is minus 21f, and 3 by 43 is 129. So now if I add both of my lines together, minus 3 plus 3 is 0, minus 4 minus 21 is minus 25f, and 46 plus 129 is 175. So now what I want to do is divide both sides by minus 25, and I get f is equal to minus 7. So now I've worked out my f. It's relatively straightforward. I'm going to go back and try and work out one of my other values. So if I sub back into my second equation here, which was that g minus 7f is equal to 43, and in this case, instead of f, I can sub in minus 7. So I'm going to get g minus 7 times minus 7 is equal to 43. which means that g plus 49 is equal to 43. So if I subtract 49 from both sides, I get g is equal to 43 minus 49, so g is equal to minus 6. So now I know the center of my circle is minus g minus f. So minus g minus f, which means the center of my circle, I'm going to change both of these signs. If g is minus 6, that means that minus g is 6. And if f is minus 7, that means that minus f is 7. So the center in this scenario, where I take it as a plus 25, the center of my circle is 6, 7. So now that I know the center and I know the radius, it's going to be relatively straightforward in order to find the equation of the circle. So one of my acceptable answers in this case is where the radius of the circle is 5 and the center of the circle is 6, 7. And once I know the center and the radius, the easiest way to get the equation of the circle is to sub into this formula. Now just be aware you could sub into the other formula, the x squared plus y squared plus 2gx plus 2fy plus c equals 0. I have enough information to work out my c based on the fact that I know my radius. But it's a lot easier to sub into this one. So if I'm using this as the equation of my circle, the center is hk. So your minus g minus f is irrelevant for the moment. And once I know my center and my radius, I can just sub straight in. So that just means the equation of my circle is x minus 6 to be squared plus y minus 7 to be squared is equal to 5 squared. When you're asked to find the equation of a circle, you don't need to multiply out the left-hand side, but you do need to rewrite the right-hand side, so you can't leave it as 5 squared. So your final answer should be x minus h to be squared plus y minus 7 to be squared is equal to 25. So that's one of the circles that they've described in that scenario. Now I want to talk to you about finding the other one. If we had taken the value on the right-hand side as minus 25 rather than plus 25. So let's just discuss that one now. Okay, so another acceptable answer is after we got to our modulus sign, we can take plus or minus. So in this example, I've taken it as minus 25 rather than plus 25, which means when I simplify it down, I bring my 21 to the other side, I get minus 3g minus 4f equals minus 4. So that's another acceptable answer, which means this is one of my equations and the other one stays the same. So the other one is still g minus 7x equals 43. Now in this context, I want to get rid of my g's, so I want to have a 3g on the bottom as well, which means I'm going to multiply the bottom line here by minus 3. And if I do that, the bottom line becomes plus 3g minus 21f equals 129. And now I can cancel my g's. Minus 4 minus 21 is minus 25. 129 minus 4 is 125. And if I divide both sides by minus 25, I get f is minus 5. I then subbed back into one of my original equations. I subbed in that f was minus 5, and I worked out that g was equal to 8. Okay, remember that I don't actually want g or f. I want the center of my circle. The center of my circle is minus g minus f, which means that minus g, if g is 8, that means that minus g is minus 8. If f is minus 5, that means that minus f is plus 5. So in this scenario, the center of my circle is minus 8, 5. So in that case, I'm saying that the center of the circle is minus g minus f. But now all of a sudden, I need to find the equation of the circle. And to do that, I'm going to use the formula x minus h to be squared plus y minus k to be squared equals r squared. And if I'm using this formula, the center of my circle has changed. If you're using this formula, if you read from your log tables, the only way you can use this formula is if the center of the circle is hk. So the x value of your center is your h, the y value of your center is your k. So if I just sub in, I get x plus 8 to be squared times y minus 5 to be squared is equal to the radius squared, which is 5 to be squared. Remember, they told me in the question what the radius of the circle was. And once again, like in the last example, we just have to multiply the right-hand side out. 5 by 5 is 25. So the other acceptable answer in that case was x plus 8 to be squared plus y minus 5 to be squared equals 25. Okay, so now I hope this video made sense. Again, if there's anything you're unsure of there, or if you want me to clarify something, then just let me know in class or send me an email or contact me in some way and hopefully I can clarify it.